Hello, everyone. My name is Fernanda Ziambi. I'm the chairperson of the IPF. Before I continue, I would like to apologize profusely for delaying this committee. I've committed the sin that I hate most, and that is to arrive late. And I do not want to tell you what happened, but I just want to apologize profusely for not being here on time. And I do ask your forbearance. And yes, I think that's all I have to say for the time being.
Apology accepted, Honorable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Thandiwe Shoniwa. I'm a board member in Investor Protection Fund.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Thompson Mashauri. I'm board member for the Investor Protection Fund.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Commissioner Tichaona Mshambarope. I'm a board member with the IPF.
Good afternoon, MPs. My name is Prosper Mtorogodo. I'm a board member of IPF, but also the Chief Executive Officer of Chengete Zai Depository Company. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Godwin Mediwa. We are the administrators of the IPF fund. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Tendai Mkletu. I'm part of Minerva as the fund administrator for Investor Protection Fund.
Afternoon, all. The name is Santos Sajiga, also with Minerva Risk Advisors, the administrators for IPF.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Ranganai Muchangwa. I'm with Minerva, the administrators of IPF.
Thank you. We also have the fourth estate. You may introduce yourself, and maybe before we proceed, we may have committee clerk ministering. May she minister the oath to all the members who are going to contribute or who are going to make some presentations. Thank you. Before the oath, may Honorable Kareni introduce herself to our visitors. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynette Karenyi, Member of Parliament for Chikanga and a member of this committee. Thank you.
You may proceed. Thank you. Yes, you may proceed.
I, Fernandez Cicely Ziambi, do swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the whole truth, so help me God.
I am Tendai Angeline Mkletu. Swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the whole truth.
I, Thompson Mashauri, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
I, Tichaona Mshambarope, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
I, Prosper Mtorogodo, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the whole truth. So help me God.
I, Thandiwe Shoniwa, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the whole truth. So help me God.
I, Cotton Mudiwa, that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the whole truth, so help me God.
I, Santos Sanja, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the whole truth. So help me God.
I, Ranganen Tran, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the whole truth, so help me God.
Thank you. Let me give my brief remarks. Section 119 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, as read together with Section 299 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, mandates Parliament to oversee all MDAs, that's ministries, government departments, and agencies, all agencies of the state. So it is our responsibility to ensure that all those ministries, all government departments account to Parliament. So IPF, you are under the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Finance falls under the armpit or the oversight of this committee, which is the Budget Committee. So we invited you so that we may understand your functions, your operations, so that we will be in a position now to make you account to Parliament. You understand? I understand our clerk has written to you and he has requested some documents, including your reports, and I heard you only managed to send I think it's a report. We were also expecting your financial statements, which we believe you will submit in due course. So we haven't invited you to grill you. No, it's for you to know your committee. You fall under the budget committee. Okay, so we are your committee. So feel at home. We are your parliament. You. It's not only about you accounting to us, but also raising some challenges that you are facing where you think we as legislators may assist you to overcome. So let me now open the floor to the chairperson or any member of the IPF to now unpack what you do, what are your functions, what are your responsibilities, and how do those functions and responsibilities align with the National Development Strategy, and if there are any challenges, you also spell out those challenges. After your presentations, then the honorable members will seek clarity on some areas. But feel at home. This is your parliament, this is your committee. Thank you. Over to you.
Honorable Chairperson and members of the committee, I think I will make a brief statement before the presentation is given to you by Minerva. The Investor Protection Fund was established to safeguard investors against losses arising from malpractice or insolvency among licensed market participants. Since its transformation into a corporate entity in 2013, the fund has become a cornerstone of confidence in Zimbabwe's capital markets. Our board, comprising 6 non-executive directors representing key institutions, has overseen strong governance and prudent stewardship. Over the past 2 years, the fund's value has grown from 4 million United States dollars to 7.3 million. We processed 165 claims in 2025 and 26 more in the first quarter of 2026, reuniting investors with unclaimed shares worth over ZiG 105 million and 4.5 million US. We have also advanced investor education through initiatives such as the Capital Markets Quiz, the Trained Teacher Program, and the launch of a Braille Handbook, ensuring inclusivity in financial literacy. Our membership in the United Nations Principles for Responsible Investment reflects our commitment to ethical and sustainable investment practices. Yet challenges remain. Revenue collection has declined, outreach resources are limited, and legislative misalignments require urgent attention. To address these, our priorities for 2026 include launching a dedicated website for the IPF, expanding education to underserved communities, rebalancing our portfolio, and ensuring full compliance with both domestic law and UNPRI standards. Honorable members, the fund stands ready to strengthen investor protection, deepen financial inclusion, and contribute to our national vision of becoming an upper middle income society by 2030. I now thank you and hand you over to Tendai, who will give a presentation to the committee, a more detailed presentation.
Over to you, Tendai. But maybe before you come in, you may clarify your relationship with Tendai. You said she's from Minerva, you are IPF. May you clarify your relationship to the honorable members?
Yes. The IPF has no secretariat, and we outsource our secretarial services to Minerva Risk Advisors. So Tendai is you heard that Mr. Mudiwa is the manager, but Tendai is the person who has been assigned to us to run the affairs, and therefore she is the one who will do the presentation. She is the person from Minerva who will do the presentation. Yes.
Okay, over to you, Tendai.
Thank you, honorable members. So I'll just do a brief outline in terms of the presentation from Investor Protection Fund, starting with our legal framework and its establishment. So generally, looking at Investor Protection Fund was established in 2010 under the Securities Exchange Act. So initially, the fund operated under the purview of SECSIM. So it was under the Securities Commission. And then in 2013, that's when there was an amendment to the Securities Exchange Act where IPF became a standalone entity. So that's where, in terms of Section 86B and Section 86C of the Securities Exchange Act, the board was established, which gave them the right to sue and be sued in its own name. So basically from the Act, when IPF became a standalone, that's when they outsourced their secretarial services to Comaton. So from 2013 to 2024, the administrators were Comaton, and then Minerva was then appointed effective July 2024. So just delving into the presentation, the chairman has already highlighted that in terms of the Securities Exchange Act, the board is comprised of 6 non-executive directors, and they've already also introduced themselves. So you'd see that in terms of representation, we've got representation from the judiciary, which will be through the Honorable Mrs. Justice Fernandez Yambi. We also have representation from our stockbrokers, and we also have representation from the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion. Then we also have representation from the Zimbabwe Association of Pension Funds, since these are a major player on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. Then we would have representation from the Securities Exchange and Commission. So just delving in to see the objective of the fund. So mainly the objective of the fund is to compensate protected investors in accordance with the Act. So the Act actually defines to say it should be malpractice, or in the event that a contributor becomes insolvent. Those are the conditions necessary for a claim to be successful. So in terms of IPF board functions, this is in accordance with Section 86D of the Securities Amendment Act. The first one would be your fund administration. The board is responsible for overseeing the day-to-day management, investment and safeguarding of the fund assets. The board is also responsible for the claims evaluation and payment process. So the board ensures that there is impartiality when they evaluate claims submitted by the protected investors. Then the other mandate of the board is for public awareness. So the board ensures that the investing public is fully informed of the fund and its benefits and eligibility criteria and any regulatory changes that may affect the investors. So you see when we explain more about the investor education awareness campaigns that IPF has in collaboration with the Securities Commission, which also helps to increase public awareness. Then the board is also responsible for the levy contributions. So basically in terms of the mandate, so currently we're making use of SI 108 of 2014. The board collects the contributions from investors at a levy of 0.025% per sell and trade of transactions. So that is the SI that is being used in collecting our levies. So it's being collected from the investors. Then in terms of our strategy, IPF now has a 5-year strategy, which is running from 2026 to 2013. And basically its development was also centered around using the RBM framework, and our strategy has been designed in a way to align with the NDS2 pillars. So in terms of the link between our strategy to NDS2, in terms of our national priority areas that IPF is contributing to, the first one would be national priority area number 1, which would be your microeconomic stability and financial sector deepening. Then in terms of the other national priority area, this would be national priority area number 10, which would be good governance, institution building, peace and security. So just linking these to our national key result areas, we have key result area number 2, which is financial deepening. And then we have national key result area number 23, which is your public service delivery. So basically, IPF ensures that they contribute to financial sector deepening and inclusive governance position as a key institutional pillar within Zimbabwe's NDS2 implementation and architecture. So just linking this to our national outcome, in terms of national outcomes, we have national outcome number 3, which will be increased financial system depth and breadth. And then we've got national outcome number 31, which would be your enhanced inclusive service delivery. Then in terms of our sectorial outcomes, we have Sector outcome number 3, which will be the safety, soundness, resilience, and integrity of the financial sector. We also have sector outcome number 7, which will be your improved financial inclusion, as well as sector number 8, which will be your deepened and broadened money and capital markets, as well as sector outcome number 65, which will be enhanced inclusive governance and accountability. So that is the link between the strategy that IPF is running and the NDS2. So just highlighting in terms of our major key performance indicators. In terms of the 2 programs that we have program number 1, which should be governance and administration, where we look at our compliance levels, just measuring the degree to which the fund is complying and adhering to the applicable legal, regulatory, and procedural requirements, as well as looking at the client satisfaction index to just assess the quality of service that we're delivering to our clients. Then in terms of investor protection, which is our second program, we look at the investor awareness to just track the reach and effectiveness of the awareness campaigns that we are doing, as well as ensuring that the fund is growing above inflation. So the target return for the fund would be an investment return above inflation. So basically from that, you'd be able to gauge that our key activities, they just involve fund management, claims processing, investor education awareness, and regulatory compliance. So in terms of investor education awareness, what Investor Protection Fund does, we partner and collaborate with the Securities Exchange Commission, since we serve the same capital market. So we do have a number of educational initiatives that we conduct in collaboration with SECZIM. So this would involve your capital markets quiz that is being done on a yearly basis, as well as the launch of the Braille Handbook, which we did in September 2024, so that we just promote financial inclusion among the visually impaired in Zimbabwe. So basically, those are some of the initiatives that we do in terms of our investor education awareness. So just looking at our key projects for 2026, basically the first one, we are looking at launching our IPF website. So because of the relationship that we had with SECZIM, the IPF website was under the Securities Exchange Commission. So now, because it's a standalone, we have decided that the Securities Exchange Commission and IPF should have their different websites. So IPF should have a standalone website. We are also looking at expanding our investor education. For this year, our budget has increased from the last year, which was 24,000 to 30,000. So that should also enable us to expand our education, as well as just focusing on UNPRI compliance, legislation alignment, and portfolio rebalancing. So in terms of legislation alignment, this is one of the challenges that we have on IPF. So you would see that the Securities Exchange Act says that IPF should levy market participants. So that would be your stockbrokers, which is what the amended act says. But when you look at the SIs, SI 108 of 2014 and SI 100 of 2010, they say we should levy the investors. So we are looking at legislation alignment so that we collect levies in alignment with the act. Then in terms of so the more participants that are leaving and migrating to VFX will be collecting less because there are less trades happening on the ZSE. So currently, as IPF, we don't have jurisdiction on the VFX. Our mandate is limited to the Zimbabwe stock market, since we are a creation of the Securities Exchange Act. And then the other last challenge would be in terms of resource constraints, to say the investor education awareness budget of 30,000 should be utilized to promote investor education and awareness campaigns all around the country. So particularly if you want to target many rural and underserved communities, you'd see that the budget is quite limited. So that would just summarize to say, in terms of IPF, that is how we operate. Those are the current challenges that we have. I submit, Honorable.
Thank you, Tendai. I want to trust honorable members. You are taking down some questions for after this, then you're going to seek clarity from our presenters. Do we still have another presenter from IPF? You are done. Okay, all right. Oh, thank you. So let me open the floor for honorable members to seek clarity or to intervene or any comments. Let me start with the issue that you raised with regard to your revenues. You said of late you have seen some downward revision of your revenues, but the statistics that you gave us said at one point your revenues has grown from 4 million to 7.3 million. I think that was in the year 2025, right? Okay. So can you clarify this position? This is a growth from 4 million to 7.3 million, but you are saying there's that threat of downward revision of your revenues. Maybe you may clarify that to honorable members. I may also want you to clarify on the charges that you are charging to investors or contributors. You said you are charging 0.025%. That's less than 1%, right? Okay. Of the sale. Is this a gross sale? A gross trade that takes place on the stock exchange market, or what? May you clarify that, and may you comment on the international benchmarks, the rates that other players in the within the region are charging. Is it along the same level, or it's higher or lower? Then you also spoke to some key indicators that you have highlighted, the compliance levels, the client satisfaction index, investor awareness. I just want a comment on this. From your assessment, how are you seeing it? Are the clients satisfied? Are the prospective investors aware of your existence? Because I think we have some prospective investors here, of some honorable members. And the reason why the committee said, I think you should come and meet the committee, is because they were not even aware what you will do. So may you comment on that? What's your perception with regard to investor awareness, with regard to client satisfaction index? Let me open the floor to maybe two more honorable members before you respond. Thank you. Yes, honorable members. You may come in.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues, for the presentation. I think we are now have a slight picture of what's happening outside there. Right. So I've got two issues. When I hear an organization called Investor Protection, I feel that this is the right people that are there to safeguard the people's investments. So I have got a question. How do you deal with those investors who maybe at some point fails to claim their shares? For example, as out of death, the shareholder dies, or else they've changed addresses, they're no longer traceable. How do you deal with that situation? Because you are an investment protector. That's my understanding. I'm not very sure about what's going to happen, but I'm just thinking outside the box to say, if someone invested in you, and at some point around 2024, we were told that the unclaimed shares were around $600,000 in some other local currency component, which was about maybe millions, I'm not mistaken. So how do you deal with that situation? How are we safe? Are we sure that our investors are well protected by you? Can you demonstrate that we protect them to our satisfaction because we've got such a high increase in unclaimed shares. That's the first one. The second one relates to the issue of outsourcing of sectorial services. I'm not sure if I got that correct. You indicate that you are outsourcing sectorial services. Is it cheaper to outsource than to employ yourselves? You are an independent institution with an independent board. Is it cheaper to employ yourself than to outsource? I'm not targeting your job, my fellow colleague. Then, lastly, is there a relationship between Chengete Zai Depository Fund and IPF? Because I heard that there's a board member who sits in both. I'm not sure who exactly, who sits in both the Chengete Zai and the IPF. Is there any contradiction or whatsoever? Is it good for corporate governance if they are related? I thank you, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Chidiwa, you may come in.
Yeah, thank you. Chair, you can stop me if my questions are too many. Yeah, thank you so much. All right. Yeah, I think I now understand a bit the mandate of IPF, and I wanted to find out some of the issues that you mentioned. It appears like they are also covered by DPC. And I wanted to find out how we are managing the overlapping mandates with DPC. And then the other issue is, you said you are safeguarding investors against insolvency. Do you really have enough funds? You mentioned that you compensated 165 something, yeah, that figure. Do you have enough funds to really compensate the investors as a result of the malpractices by brokers? And some of the brokers, you are not the ones who are hiring them, but then you are going to shoulder their malpractices. And then the last one, what are you doing to protect yourself against the cannibalization of Zimbabwe Stock Exchange by VFX? We thought VFX was going to complement the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, but it appears like where we are heading to now is probably the death of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. Is there anything that we are doing in order to stop this cannibalization of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange by VFX? Thank you.
All right, before we take a second round of questions, you may come in and respond to those few questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. So I will attempt some of the questions, and then some of them I will allow the board members responsible to attempt. So the first one, in terms of increased asset base as opposed to the revenue collection. So you'd see that our assets have grown because we have been investing primarily on our ZSE and our VFX, which have almost doubled in value. So that led to the asset growth. So that is different from the revenue collection. So when we're looking at the revenue collection, we are looking at the monthly income that we are collecting from our investors. So that is the aspect that we're saying it has been decreasing, because we collect as per the trades that are done on the ZSE, and because there is cannibalization, participants are moving from the ZSE to the VFX, you'd see that the revenue has reduced. So basically, your monthly revenue should be able to cover your administrative costs before you start dipping into the portfolio and taking the investment income and the dividends. So because of that, we have not been receiving enough monthly revenue collection to cater for the costs, and we have been using part of the income generated from our assets. So that is the distinction to say why are we saying the revenue is low when the portfolio is growing. So the portfolio growth is coming from the assets which are growing, which are under the management of the asset managers. And then the next one.
Maybe just before you proceed, so the revenues, do you have offhand, do you have the statistics of the fall that has taken place, say from 2024 to 2025? What has happened to the revenues?
Yes, so I can be able to share that while the other members are answering the question. I can look for the information offhand.
It's fine, thank you. Okay.
So then the next one was to do with the percentage that we're collecting, the 0.025%. So basically, in terms of Kenya is collecting 0.01%. Per trade. So it's one of the countries that we have been benchmarking against. So their revenue is 0.01%. And we also had an actuarial valuation done on the fund to determine the optimal fund size and the optimal levies. So the actuary determined that the optimal a combination of the risk-based levy and the scheme-based levy would be 0.22%. So actually we are collecting way below, but what is positive is that the actuary highlighted that the optimal fund size should be 5.5 million, and we are now above the 5.5 million. So in terms of clarification on whether the 0.025% is being collected on the gross trade or on the transaction, I'll allow Madam Thandi to touch that when she also explains about the unclaimed shares portfolio. Then the other question was to do with the satisfaction of clients. So we do acknowledge that as IPF, we had some brand visibility issues, mainly because of the fact that, number one, we didn't have a standalone website. So we do have some brand visibility issues, which we are now addressing so that our clients can easily identify us and submit their claims. So in terms of the satisfaction survey, we did have a satisfaction survey last year, and the results indicated that our clients were basically satisfied with us up to 60%, and we are hoping to get an improvement from our clients once we engage more on social media and we become more visible as IPF. The other question was to say, how do you deal with the unclaimed shares portfolio? So in terms of unclaimed shares portfolio, we do have a portfolio of shares which is separate from the Investor Protection Fund, which houses these shares that have not been claimed by the original recipients. So the claims that the Honorable Justice Fernambas Siambi talked about, the 165 claims, is pertaining to the rightful beneficiaries of the unclaimed shares coming to take their shares. So we do have a portfolio of unclaimed shares, which we have, which is mainly comprising of shares that have not yet been claimed by the public, and we have been doing some investor education awareness campaigns so that members can come and claim. So you would see that there was an increase in those claims since we started the investor education awareness campaigns. So that led to the increase in those claims. And then in terms of, do you have enough to pay compensation for the 165 claims? So that answers the question to say the claims were pertaining to, number one, the 165 was pertaining to the unclaimed shares portfolio where the rightful beneficiaries came to claim. And then as IPF, we can only pay out a benefit, a single claim up to the maximum of 10%. Of the claim amongst all the participants who are claiming with regards to that. So as determined by the actuary to say the optimal fund size should be 5.5 million, we do believe that we have capacity to pay the claims that are rising from the licensed player. So remember, the cover is for protected investors who use licensed players by Securities Exchange Commission. So the protection is for the capital markets for players who are licensed by the Securities Exchange Commission. So in terms of saying this seems to overlap with DPC, you would see that DPC covers your banks, participants, and then IPF is primarily focused on the capital markets, which would be for the licensed players under the Securities Exchange Commission. And then in terms of outsourcing secretarial services, I'm just going to comment a bit and allow the board to come through, because there was an analysis that was done to say if the board becomes a full standalone, what are the implied costs from having permanent employees on the IPF. So recall, number one, the major challenge was the revenue generation was not sufficient to cover the current operating costs. So now when you go full standalone and employ workers, you then have those other running expenses, because as of now, you don't have your running costs like your rentals for the building that you're using, or monthly salaries and wages, because you're just paying the administration fee to Minerva Risk Advisors. So I'll also allow the board to comment, since I'm from Minerva, so I cannot further comment on that one. And then the last one would be in terms of cannibalization of ZSE, what are you doing as Investor Protection Fund? So we do realize that, you know, there's a gap in the market. The Victoria Falls exchange market needs protection. And we had, when we had our statutory meeting with the minister, because we're obliged to have 2 statutory meetings every year, when we had our statutory meeting with the minister, we actually highlighted that we are forwarding our proposal for establishment of the investor protection levy on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. So we did submit the proposal so that we cover those investors that are also on the Victoria Falls Exchange. So this one on Chengetedzai Depository, the relationship, I'll allow Mr. Mtorogodo to answer, and then Mr. Mshambadope, I'm sure you'd want to come in on the cannibalization, and then Madam Shonyoa can come in on the unclaimed shares.
Thank you. Well, let me answer on the aspect of Chengetedzai being on the IPF board. You'd find that when it comes to an investor, for an investor to actually be a participant on the stock market, they would need a CSD account. That is the basic requirement. And for that to happen, it means the investor must interface with with the Chengetedzai. First and foremost, so we actually interact with the investors when they are actually entering into the market, when their knowledge is perhaps at its lowest in terms of understanding of the market. Hence, with regards to the interests of the IPF in Chengetedzai, they sort of dovetail in that regard. And you find that all the collections that are being done by IPF in terms of revenue collection, they actually emanate from those that have accounts and actually participate. When someone buys and sells, then IPF can actually collect, which means the fees that IPF collects is directly proportional to the number of participants that we have on the market. Hence, in terms of investor awareness and even recruitment of investors as we go along, it's quite important that IPF works hand in glove with the CSD and the programs. They need to be harmonized. So in that regard, I would say perhaps there's a convergence there of interest to say it's actually a good thing that Chengetedzai now, in terms of investor participation, we are also at the forefront. And would then drive it even in terms of collection, as we then monitor to say, is IPF collecting everything that is happening on the market? It's quite important that the CSD, because the CSD is actually the one that collects the fees and distributes amongst all the participants. So it's quite key that that relationship is enhanced by Chengetedzai being on the IPF board. Thank you.
Okay, or you may.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. I will delve into the question that spoke about the cannibalization of the ZSC from VFX. I think maybe I'll just take two steps backwards around the spirit of the creation of the VFX. The spirit was around increasing FDI, and I think that is going to be also around the solution that we are proposing. We've proposed the increase of requirements in terms of counters that are going to move from ZSC to VFX, to say you have to indicate that there's a certain threshold of FDI that is coming through. Because I think it's fundamentally a miss that I think the last delisting is Dairy Board. When you look at Dairy Board, it's an entity, unless there is further FDI that comes through, it's an out and out entity that is Zimbabwean, and VFX becomes, but also from a business perspective, you then also get to understand, because when you look at that, then leads to the second part around the solution. When you look at what we have done for ZSC, is the only asset in Zimbabwe. Is the only asset in Zimbabwe. Even honorable, going to Chipinge, Pabechnaf, you are able to buy majanje in dollars. But ZSC is the only asset in the country that trades. We value and we understand the importance and the criticality of our currency, but the emergence of a multi-currency regime emanated from the pertinent need for us to expand our to make our economy more dynamic, and we have hamstrung the ZSC to be limited to the local currency. So part of the solution that we are going to do is we've also placed a proposal for something called a derivatives exchange. It's just an exchange that is going to tie for every trade that happens on ZSC without necessarily it being dollar denominated, but we're going to allow the pension funds that have got extra liquidity to be able to use either the dollar or the local currency for the trades on ZSC. So that will effectively even the playing field around liquidity. And then the next thing that we've made a plea as well is to remove the capital gains tax on ZSE, because currently there's no capital gains tax on VFX. There is capital gains tax on ZSE. So that removal effectively will allow the evening of the playing field. But furthermore, what has been happening is now from a Securities and Exchange Commission perspective, we're also now looking at expanding the possible options that investors are able to do in terms of just, because previously I think we were limiting just to equity counters, and then your equity counters, it was just your ZSC and your VFX. But now when you look at what is happening globally, we now have, I think when you look at your environmental sustainable financing, your carbon credits, your renewable energy certificates, those are also options that we are bringing and licensing through our sandbox to enable investors to be able to have other options that effectively will assist the domestic market in terms of expansion. So from an evening the level playing field, we're just looking at trying to capitalize on that. But having said that, from a revenue generation perspective, IPF and also Securities and Exchange Commission are looking. We are almost now sealing an agreement with the International Financial Service Center in terms of supporting, because the Securities Exchange Commission has existed for the last 18 years. So in terms of institutional memory, in terms of even the capacity that the exchange has, the Securities Commission has, it's not going to, we'll be reinventing the wheel if we decide to say the Victoria Falls Center replicates the same. So there are certain services from a commission perspective, from an investor protection perspective, that we're going to be giving them and assist in terms of revenue generation in a revenue shared model. I submit.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Maybe because of our time, please
Yes,
try
I
to
will.
be very brief. Thank you.
On the collection side, we're talking about the 0.025%. So that is calculated on the consideration. Consideration is the price times the number of shares. That's where we collect. So when you are buying and when you're selling, we collect on both. Then going to unclaimed shares. How unclaimed shares came to be is because before Securities and Exchange Commission came to being, there was stockbrokers who would handle the money and handle the shares of the clients. It was like a club, sort of, under ZSE. But now Securities and Exchange Commission came, Chengete Zai that they were talking about came, and now we separated functions. The banks handle the money. We have custodial banks when we are buying and selling shares. We have Chengete Zai and the ZSE custodial who handle the actual shares, and now not in physical form, but electronically. So it's even more secure. And then we have the brokers who just do the trades, and the fund managers, they just do the trades, but they don't handle those. So the risk of the unclaimed shares has almost been eliminated. The ones that we are talking about are the ones that emanated from those days. That's why the Securities and Exchange Commission took all the shares from the brokers and handed them over to IPF. Thank you.
Just to add, Honorable Chair, just to give an example of the point that was made earlier.
Please make it very brief, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I won't take long. Chair. Let's just imagine that you buy a share on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. Under the current arrangement, you are then protected, but the counter then moves from ZSC to VFX. Now, you then don't have the same protection. So someone can actually come back and say, I was protected because I bought my share under VFX. I didn't make that choice to move to under ZSC. I didn't make that choice to move to VFX, so I've lost my protection. So there is that gap which needs to be explored and covered, because that is currently not covered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we still have any interventions from honorable members? Please, just one question. Yes, Honorable Kareni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick one. I just want to hear from the board, Mr. Chairman, on what criteria does the board use to determine whether an investor qualifies for compensation, and are there any common reasons why claims are rejected?
Okay. One more from Honorable Shudua.